All right. Well, thank you so much, NICOA, for your time today and your willingness to be interviewed. I really, really appreciate it because I know how crazy everything is right now and also kind of how busy people can be with working on different things while being at home and in quarantine. So thank you very much. For those of you who are just now kind of tuning into this new video series, I launched this series to really provide business owners with a more positive outlook as well as advice for really how to master that positive mindset throughout the pandemic, while also being able to use this time to really stimulate innovation so that these businesses can hopefully, either maintain what they're doing or find a way to thrive throughout the pandemic. So with that being said, I would love to pass it over to our guest, NICOA Dunn. NICOA, I would love for you to introduce yourself as well as your business.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Morgan. I'm so
Yeah.
excited to be a part of this. I really like what you've been doing, and I think this is a really good niche right now. People really need some feedback about how to maintain that calm. My background is in corporate communications and human resources, and I went out on my own. I quit my big corporate job back in 2009, and I decided to set up shop as an executive coach, and I've evolved into more of an executive lifestyle coach. So my practice brings both that skill of coaching, creating a safe space for individuals who need someone to help them meet their goals, while simultaneously providing HR business advice and advisory services. The ultimate outcome typically for my clients is really helping them refine their true north. What is it that their goals are? And doing that from their authentic self, rediscovering who they are in the process so they can be successful and satisfied and happy.
I love that. And what I think is so interesting about your story is that you were able to use all of those skills that you built in the corporate world and then kind of merge that, with your business. And so I think that is awesome. And so you mentioned that you have a background in corporate communications. So can you talk a little bit about how that kind of led you into the HR path?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I was hired by GE back in the day, if you will. I guess it's probably been 26, 7 years ago. And I was brought in as the GE Nuclear Energy Communications leader for one of their plants. And as a member of the human resources team, I got exposed to HR. And I also noticed that corporate communicators don't always get backfilled when people get laid off. So I thought, I have to adapt. I have to pivot. So the topic we're going to talk about today, I looked around and said, what is it that I admire about my peers? What type of work are they doing? And I thought, for my own job security, I should expand my skill base. So I talked with my leadership and I said, listen, I like what that girl's doing over there. This woman had come in and was doing some training around human resources skills. And I said, I could do that. I have the ability to do that. And he educated me, my boss at the time, and said, well, that's a human resources generalist. So fast forward, I got a different location job, and I said, hey, what if you put me on the human resources leadership program? Now, they never did that at GE for
Wow.
internal employees. So
Yeah.
this was another opportunity where I simply asked the question that may have been a different approach,
Mhm.
but my boss backed up and said, huh, what if we did put you on that leadership
Mhm.
program? And so before you knew it, within literally 48 hours, I
Wow.
was on a plane interviewing, and I was then now on an HR path. So I was
Wow.
fortunate, was able to make it
Yeah.
to the very top of these HR roles, and didn't even have an undergrad in human resources.
Wow, that is so interesting. And I feel like that really aligns so well with what we're talking about today in terms of how to pivot your business. And I really like how you kind of had really great foreshadowing skills, being able to tell, are they going to backfill somebody in a communications role, when times get tough. So I think that's a really, really interesting perspective for sure. That's awesome.
Well, thank you. And
Yeah.
I remember feeling pretty motivated that I had the individual
Yep.
belief system that I owned my own career, and not
Right.
everyone believes that. They
Right.
often feel victim to their business circumstances.
Yep.
And I've really tried to brainstorm before coming to talk with you today. The first thing I wanted to highlight especially when you find yourself in a business circumstance like this. Oh my gosh, we've never had this happen, right? The entire earth pushed the pause button, right? So my first thoughts were, as a business owner, business leader, or an entrepreneur of any form or fashion, you first have to acknowledge and accept where you are.
Yep.
I had this fun little A thing, so I got all these A words, so you're just going to love this.
I'm ready. I'm loving
it. And accept. Acknowledge and accept. So acknowledge that this is happening. Sometimes we spend a lot of time denying what's happening around us. So really getting the facts about your circumstance, whether it be at work or at home with your family. What are the facts? Where are we financially? Where are we with our clients? What is the situation? Are we losing clients? Are we losing business? Accepting where you are. Until you come to a space of acceptance, then you're not going to be in control. Don't really like that word, but you'll feel a lot more in control if you acknowledge where you are and accept it. The second thing I would highlight, after you recognize that this is happening to you, and I would invite you to consider this assumption: is it really happening to you, or is it happening for you?
Right.
There's two ways to look at this whole dynamic of a pandemic and a pause. We can say, oh my God, I'm a victim to this, right? I'm totally overwhelmed. Or, what is the value in this? How is this benefiting me? What is happening for me in this circumstance? Because I believe that we're all on the right journey. We're all in the right spot. So once you can sit back and see it as a reality for you, and you accept it as some sort of lesson, if you will, then I want you to allow your reaction to it. Allow, and then ask for support. So allow your emotions. We are going to be emotional. We are human beings, and emotions are messages. They're part of our way of knowing where we need to move next. So think about emotion as energy in motion, emotion. When we have that emotional reaction to the world, it's simply reminding us what matters most to us. So give yourself some compassion, some gentleness, a break. Allow yourself to grieve that your business and your family situation is different now. Allow yourself to be scared. Have that fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Breathe through it, and then ask for support. We are so stubborn. We are stubborn.
So true.
And we never ask. And we sit there and go, my business, my family, oh my gosh. Give yourself a break. It's an emotional roller coaster going through massive change where we do not have any knowledge of what's going to happen in the future. So allow it, be gentle with yourself, and then ask for support. This could be with your partner, with a business coach. It could be with a counselor or a family member, your best friend. Ask for the support that you need. And don't think you have to do this alone.
Right.
So collaboration as well. I don't know, your thoughts about all that.
I think that's great. I love all of that. And, I think that's especially important because this is such a crazy time that people haven't really experienced before. So it's so easy for people to get directly into that fear mode without really taking a step back and understanding, why am I fearful right now? What can I do, to help myself or others in the situation? So I think, all of those are such great points.
Well, it's not that you go there, those emotional states. It's how long do you stay there?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I want people to give themselves a break.
Absolutely.
Sometimes they are beating themselves up because they think, oh my gosh, I'm not as secure in this circumstance as I should be. So stop shooting all over yourself.
Yeah. I love that.
Right where you're supposed to be. If you had done it any differently, who knows? But you did it. There's no value in ruminating over the past. No regret ever got you to move forward into the future. Maybe some lessons learned, but give yourself a break. I went on to a couple more thoughts. I really hope, you had asked about how are people pivoting? What's the innovation we've seen? And I think what we're observing is people are adopting and adapting. They're adopting new best practices, and they're adapting to their new reality. It doesn't mean this is the new normal. I actually encourage people to not even go there.
Yeah.
It's not a new normal. It's really just life. This is
Definitely.
not like everything's going to go back to being the same way it was. That is not possible.
Right.
We have already changed. This experience changes us. And the way that we can best adapt is by looking around us and seeing, what are other people doing? And then what skills do I have that I can leverage uniquely, differently? We really have to be our own free agent, whether it's your business model becomes a different way of approaching your customer base. Maybe you can open up a new customer target. One of the things that I noticed that was pretty unique, the way people were trying to find ways to get cash flow. And cash flow is usually your critical factor. We've seen a lot of businesses immediately have to shut their doors and lay people off.
Yeah.
But if you can get creative, and maybe you and I can talk about some of the things we've both seen, but I've seen gift certificate options at a discount. If you buy now, you'll use it in the future, and I can guarantee my cash flow in the short term.
Absolutely.
We've seen restaurants partnering with their suppliers to sell groceries instead of meals. Right? That was a pretty unique one. What else have you seen?
So I've seen, I mentioned this a little bit in the last interview that I did, but I love it so much. I want to mention it again. I think it's just so interesting. So you think about these experiences, you know, these social experiences like wine and design, for example. And so some of these places are packaging up those kits and you can do it at home, which is awesome. I think that's genius. And I think that's a really important thing to think about because, you know, a lot of these businesses right now that don't really have that online presence, that have that more traditional brick and mortar, you know, kind of situation, and they rely on that foot traffic and people having these experiences within their businesses. And so I think it's important to think about, you know, how can we package that up and give people that experience to take with them and enjoy at home with their families?
Exactly. We've seen tons of hands-on service providers turn their skills back into video offerings, online course subscriptions.
100%.
It's really been very creative.
Yeah, I agree.
I also want to talk a little bit about how you can make some new business decisions without seeing it from a black or white perspective. Some people recognize, I don't have my cash flow. I no longer can maintain these costs. Well, that doesn't mean you're going to have to file bankruptcy and shut your doors, right? Get creative. My son just told me that he's been told that he will have 2 one-week furloughs as a part of his job commitment. And they're in the future. One is at the end of May, one is in August.
Yeah.
So they're moving people around and giving them that time off to say, heads up, we're giving you enough time to prepare yourself. And they're also able to cut back their costs for the year. A large US-based global company recently cut their top 3 levels of executive salaries from anywhere from 10 to 25%. Absolutely. We can make those calls so that we do not have to lay off large swaths of populations within our organization. You can also ask for the employees' feedback. So when I talk about adopting and adapting, I also talk about asking for that type of support from internal employees. Get them to give you advice on what could be done differently within your organization. Again, you are not alone. I think that's people's biggest fears.
I agree. And I actually haven't even heard that yet, asking employees for their feedback. It seems so simple, but I feel like people aren't doing that enough.
Well, you know, when I was in the corporate world, we used to do these things called, it was kind of I can't remember the exact title, but I know we would go into organizations, kind of a cultural assessment. And we would ask employees in roundtables, what's going well? What's not going well? If you were the plant manager, as an example, for the day, what would you want to change? And then what are some solutions you could recommend in order to support such a change?
Absolutely.
You know, and then that whole dialogue was captured and then shared back with the leadership. And the leadership would often immediately take those recommendations and make those changes because it was always in the best interest of the organization when you had all the minds working together. Leaders put a lot of pressure on themselves, like, I'm supposed to know it all. You aren't supposed to know it all. How could you know? First of all, let me validate every business leader out there and every individual contributor and person who's trying to run a household. How in the world could you know how to handle this?
Yep.
Quit giving yourself such a hard time and recognize that you are learning alongside everyone else. So reach out. Now, last two tips I did want to highlight because I really think this is important. And you asked me about this before. How do you maintain a positive business mindset?
Yeah.
Well, avoid and act. Here we go, right? My last two A words.
Right. I love it.
Avoid negativity.
Yeah.
Now, again, I told you it's okay to be emotional and have a negative thought and have negative fears.
Mm-hmm.
Not that you go there, it's how long do you stay there? And can you then consciously and very intentionally choose a positive mindset? So you need to avoid negativity really at all costs, especially if you have employees.
Oh, wow.
Your ability to stay calm as the ship captain in the midst of this chaotic, turbulent sea is the legacy you're going to leave behind. And I'm going to give you an activity you can do as well, just a really quick activity in a minute that you'll be able to practice, because sometimes it's hard. It's really hard to release the fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So I want you to avoid negativity and then act on it. So act on your intuition. So if you sit still enough, taking the big deep breaths and releasing those negative thoughts, and then really listening carefully, what does need me in this moment? What feels like it's in the forefront of my mind as important right now? How might I get organized? Maybe I need to make a list, but I need to act on this intuition. Your gut is not lying. I had a client the other day who was in the midst of assessing an employee's effectiveness, and then the pandemic hit. They had two things happen. One, the employee was not necessarily delivering at the level that they needed them to, but they also lost 2 clients in the process.
Oh, wow.
Their gut told them, I got to let this guy go. And at the end of the day, they were not sure. They're like, oh, I hate to do it in the middle of a downturn. But the truth is, my business, I have to step way back. I have to look at the facts, and I have to act on my intuition, act on my gut. And that client ultimately did make that tough call. And their business is better for it and will be in the long run. So trusting that intuitiveness and acting on it. We tend to hesitate and hem and haw, and I don't know. So I want to share one little acronym, though, that will help. Because when we are overwhelmed, we forget what hat we're wearing. So hopefully you want to play around with me here just a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe first, before I jump into it, tell me of maybe another example where you've seen uncertainty with a business leader or yourself, or something you might have observed. And we'll use that as an example.
Oh gosh, uncertainty with, so, I mean, the immediate thing that comes to my mind is, so I'm finishing up my last semester in school. And so there was a lot of uncertainty as to like what the graduation plans would be. And so I feel like it takes universities sometimes a long time to weigh the pros and cons, like what should they do? So I feel like there was a little bit of uncertainty about what route to go in terms of, are we going to postpone graduation? Are we going to have a virtual celebration? That type of thing.
And what was your interpretation of all that? How did that affect you?
I mean, I think that for me, it's kind of a weird ending to the program. So I was just like, wow, I don't know. I mean, I understood like where they were coming from, because there's so many different things to consider, and you really have to be careful in considering all of these different aspects. But I think I was a little bit frustrated, more so just because it's a very anticlimactic ending.
Of course.
Yeah.
So your perception of it was absolute disappointment, right?
Definitely.
You're kind of grieving it. And that's so normal. I mean, I've been to an NC State graduation a couple of times, not my own as well as my child. And it's a big event. It's a big deal. So naturally, you're going to be disappointed. So play with me, and we're going to jump right into taking that big, deep breath. We're just going to stop for a moment and get grounded and really think about observing your role as a student at NC State. That's the hat I want you to put on right now, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to stop, take a deep breath, observe that hat. We tend to wear multiple hats at all times. So let's pick the hat of student,
Yep.
excited student who's a senior or the final year and you're about to graduate. Now I want you to understand what really matters most to you as that student. In the context of graduating, what are those values that really matter most to you? And it's in that moment where you're going to weigh, is walking across the stage what really matters most to me? I mean, I really wanted that. I wanted the hat. I wanted the gown. I really wanted my parents to come. Or is getting this degree and positioning myself for my lifelong career and beautiful ability to contribute to the world, is that really what matters most to me? So once we understand what your values are around the circumstance, then we can live the legacy that you want to leave behind. So we stop, we observe, what hat am I wearing? We understand what really matters most. And then you live that legacy. Or depending on what circumstance you're applying that to, you're going to listen, learn, love, laugh, whatever it is that you want, how you want to show up, your way of being in this situation. So you might have noticed I spelled soul, stop, observe, understand, and live.
That's awesome.
Soulful living is mindful living, and mindful living is how we are going to maintain a mindset during this business shift that will help us not only survive, but thrive in the long run.
I love that exercise because it kind of just shows you, you know, how important it is to take that step back and kind of recenter yourself and focus on, you know, why am I feeling this way, but also what really matters. So I think that's going to be so helpful for people as they're kind of experiencing all these different emotions. And, you know, even myself, you know, kind of shifting into this work from home mode, it's a little bit more difficult for whatever reason to get focused. So I think that that's extremely helpful.
Oh, I hope so. And I really think that staying focused right now is a real challenge for people.
Right.
And what they're trying to do is make it their normal routine. They're just picking up what they had in their previous work and they're trying to force it into their house, into their apartment, into whatever circumstance they're in. And, you know, I've got kids running around this house. I've got 3 kids online right now in different locations. And fortunately, we have space for that. But what about the person who's in a small apartment and all their college kids came home? It's really tricky to adapt and have different personalities engaging with one another. Everyone is under stress. You know, one way to look at mindset is to ask yourself, am I holding on too tight to the structures that I had? Or can I let go and kind of go with the flow? I mean, you know, right when we had that technical difficulty a little while ago, I was able to just step up, go and open the door because we have a Wi-Fi issue in this room. I thought, maybe it's me. It's okay. You know, go with the flow instead of holding on tight. Imagine you're in a river and you're holding onto the root on the side of the river and the river is just like trying to pull you. If you can just let go of the roots on the side of the river and flow with the water, you're going to be much better off, a lot less stress, a lot less overwhelmed.
Absolutely. I think that's a really just helpful thing in life, even if we weren't going through this pandemic, and it can kind of teach people, you know, how to approach difficulties that come up in life. And, you know, if anything, those are really great exercises to be practicing now, to set yourself up for success, you know, if, you know, hopefully the quarantine ends like soon, maybe it won't, I don't know, but like, I think it'll really set people up for success.
Oh, I hope we're waking up.
Yeah, I hope so.
I see this as a wake-up call. I just reposted a guy who made a Life by Design decision on my Instagram account. I reposted his post. His name is, his Instagram tag is @AnxietyKyle. And he said, you know what? I'm never going back. I made a decision.
Love that.
I'm going to change my business approach. I'm going to not work the same way I worked before. I want to be home with my family. I want to be able to walk outside any time of the day. And he has made a Life by Design decision. I
love
hope
that.
everyone is waking up and
Yeah,
recognizing that you can change. It's
absolutely.
okay. And did everyone notice? The world did not implode yet. Not to discount the tragedy of this virus, but majority of people have not imploded.
Right.
And I would say there's an opportunity here to say, okay, where can I speak my truth with my boss?
Yep.
Where can I make changes to my own daily schedule?
Mm-hmm.
How can I spend more time aligned with what matters most to me, my values, my mission in life, and be very intentional about
Yeah.
aligning my behavior to those values going forward. When this is over, what is your post-pandemic plan? How do you want to
Yeah.
show up in the world? And how can you ensure that that aligns with a life by design that you don't need a vacation from?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I think that's a really, really important point because I mean, what kind of life is that if you're constantly living just for the vacation?
That's right. This
I
is the
mean,
a life for me. People talk about work life balance. I think that's BS.
yeah.
Until you're actually doing work that you love and you
Yep.
want, or you can purpose the work you're doing as an enabler of a lifestyle, then
Mm-hmm.
you should still love the work. Not
Definitely.
I'm working to have this, but I am working to enable this. It's a
Absolutely.
much different mindset. And people need to recognize moving away from that fixed mindset to a
Mm-hmm.
growth mindset. What is possible for me? Taking the blinders off of the life they've been told they had to live.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of assumptions and interpretations that people have about what is necessary. Well, I have to work hard in order to play, or money is a necessary evil. What are your belief systems? What
Yep.
are your life thoughts, your domains of life? What do you believe about education, about money, about relationships? And do you need to change your meaning? You
Definitely.
own it. Ultimately, asking yourself, am I at choice? Right? There's a power spectrum. Either we are in a space of, oh, I have to do this. Zero power, right? I have to. Well, I have to go to work. No, you don't. Okay, well, I want to. Or I need to first, right? I have to. I need to. I need to go to work to get paid. Okay, still not very much power.
Right.
Well, I kind of want to. I want to go to work so I can have the resources I need to create my life by design. Okay, 50% power now. What if I could get you to choice? You know what? I got up this
Yep.
morning. I choose to go to work. I
Yep.
choose to do this. I choose to go to class. I choose to do my homework. And I also choose to see my world the way it's going to best serve me. I hear
Absolutely.
children in the other room. Hope that's not.
I love that. Yeah, I think honestly, it's so crazy to me, you kind of walking through those statements and how much more positive and just empowering that final statement was compared to the first one. And I think if people really chose and kind of, spoke like that more often, it would really improve their mindset.
I think so too. I tend
Yeah.
to walk around with a couple of questions that help me live a more satisfied and peaceful life. The first question I like to ask myself is, what am I making this mean?
Yep.
And that helps me move from a reactionary state to my life to a responsive state. So if I can step way back and say, what am I making this pandemic mean? What am I making
Absolutely.
the lack of cash flow mean? What am I
Mhm.
making it all mean? Root cause analysis.
Yeah.
Then I can begin asking the questions, what do I want in this situation?
Mhm.
Okay, well, how's what I'm doing getting me what I want?
Yep.
And if I'm not getting what I want, am I willing to try a different way? And this is all about shifting that perception from burden and drudgery to possibility, opportunity, choice.
Definitely.
You've heard this before. This is that energy leadership work that I love to do
Yes.
by Bruce
Love that.
Schneider. And I
Love
highly
that.
recommend the book, Energy Leadership, Transforming Your Workplace and Your Life from the Core. It's a great book. And it's really been something that's been a powerful piece of my coaching work. So I recommend it highly.
Yeah, I honestly loved the session that you did on that. That was just amazing. It was so
Oh, thank
great.
you.
Yeah,
I'm
it was
glad you
amazing.
had a
It was
chance to be there.
absolutely. Yeah, it was amazing. And kind of going back to what you were saying earlier, I really do believe that this is kind of the opportunity for people to kind of like what you said, examine their beliefs and their values, and then also, own their experience. You mentioned owning your career at the beginning, like own your life, own your experience. And so I think, that maybe that's even the theme of this interview is, how to take ownership. I think that's just so important.
Well, I think people need to recognize that no one is going to rescue them.
Right.
Now, I am not telling you not to take full advantage of the resources that are out there for you. So, for example, if you haven't already applied for that Small Business Association loan, the government's, stimulus package, please go and research it. And if you think, oh, well, I don't really need it, you deserve to have that financial support. So go take advantage of the resources that were put in place to support you during times of uncertainty. So Don't be too proud.
Yeah.
That's one important element.
I agree.
I was raised in a house where, well, we got, we don't need a handout. I'm like, this is not a handout. This is why I was put in place in the first place.
Exactly.
So ask for help. Take advantage of the resources out there, because you can't, some people want to stay a victim. Let me be clear. Some people live in a story of, I am a victim to all of this circumstance. So really observing yourself and say, what is my story?
Yep.
And do I have an opportunity here to shift it so it can be more powerful, more optimistic, and more beneficial? Because if you raise your vibration of optimism and positivity, you're more likely to find the solutions quicker and also attract the resources and partners that you need in order to be successful. So yeah, you own your own career. You always do. So what do you make in the world mean? And can you shift your approach to it so that it can benefit you and those around you? Because as long as you're a victim and stuck on the couch, nothing's going to happen.
That is the truth. That is absolutely the truth. Yeah, I mean, I've really enjoyed this conversation today, just kind of talking through mindset, as well as, some of these more tactical exercises, one of them that we did earlier. I thought that was so helpful. And for anybody that's listening to this, I highly encourage you to try out this exercise and kind of just, leave us a comment. Let us know how you liked that. And I also, as kind of a final question, I wanted to ask, do you have any, final advice that you would love to give to business owners? If they take anything away from this conversation, what are some highlights?
I want to check my notes because I did think about that a lot. And yeah, I want to remind everybody, whether we're talking about your personal career, your small business, or you're being a part of a large corporation, is that you are the one who got yourself to where you are today. Okay? Don't forget that. Whatever success you're currently having, you manifested that. You created that. It was your stick-to-itiveness that got you here. So no matter what happens in this circumstance, if your business implodes, if you lose your job, if you end up missing massive amounts of mortgage payments, you can do it again. You can, you will, you are going to move through this, and whatever experiences you have, they're simply going to give you that character and that ability to come out of this the more powerful, insightful, wise person that this world needs. Every journey is happening in order to make you the person you need to be for the planet. We need you. You are here for a reason. So trust the process. Trust that this is going to benefit you in the long run. I always believe the universe is conspiring on our behalf at all times, and you will make it through this.
I love that message. It's just so positive, and I definitely think that that's something that people need to hear right now.
I'm glad to provide it. And I also put together a Life by Design course. So if anyone is in the process with their downtime, you did ask an interesting question I meant to comment on, is how do you take advantage of this downtime to be more productive? One of the things that I would invite you to do is reflect on your life, right? So this Life by Design course that we put in place is actually on sale for all the COVID-19 impacted individuals. And it's only like $24.99, and you can go to NICOAdone.com. I wanted to make sure people had access when they couldn't necessarily be in a position to afford and have time for one-on-one coaching. They might be able to do some self-work. So this course is available, and you can also follow me at NICOAdone.com. I have a regular blog. I have an Instagram account, and I do Sunday Facebook Lives with tips and, NICOA insights that I think would be beneficial for everybody. And all of that's free for the following. There's only one of me, so I try to use as many channels as possible to offer up my own personal experiences and wisdom so that it can be beneficial for everyone.
Awesome. And so for anybody that's listening that wants to check out these resources, we will also have all of these linked in the description, so you can just check those out. Thank you so much, NICOA, for your time today and for providing your insight, your background and kind of, some best practices and also mindset exercises. All of this was so helpful. And I know that I have full confidence that anybody listening to this it's going to help them. So thank you again so much for your time.
Thank you, Morgan, for having me. I really appreciate it.
You are very welcome. And for anyone that is listening, we just hope that everybody is staying safe, and I hope that you have an amazing day.